Native American Heritage Month celebration continues right now with Sunny.
Thank you, Joy.
Yeah.
Today, we're honoring a young activist who went viral for making a powerful fashion statement. Take a look. It was the prom dress that made national headlines in 2018 and helped Isabella Ayukli Cornell of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma shine a light on an issue left in the dark for far too long. The design details gave a proud nod to her Choctaw heritage, while the red color symbolized the movement to end the ongoing epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, whose remains are 135% more likely to go unidentified than the remains of other women in the United States. But Cornell's activism began years before her viral dress. At 14, she joined forces with her mother by becoming a member of Matriarch, a nonprofit organization providing resources and sanctuary for Native American women who have faced domestic violence.
Cornell says that work inspired her to create the prom dress with Native American fashion designer Della Big Hair Stump. The gown has been featured everywhere, from local news to teen Vogue. And today, it's a part of the Smithsonian's traveling exhibit called Girlhood. Cornell says her dress symbolizes the stories of thousands of Native American and Indigenous women, including her own.
And Jessica, it's not even confusion on who's the front man, right? There's also mass confusion on who has access to key evidence in the case.
Absolutely. Yeah, there seems to be a major disconnect here, Marky. FBI source telling our own Libby Dean that Chris Nanos, he's the Pima County sheriff, that he's blocking key evidence from the FBI. Sources say that that key evidence includes that glove that they found on the side of a busy road, another glove in Nancy's home, as well as more DNA. And it's all being sent off to Florida for testing by the sheriff. The FBI will then have to test it again in Quantico. The Pima County Sheriff's Office has not held a press conference in more than a week. And FBI is saying that there is some sort of friction between the two departments, and it's unclear who's actually leading this investigation, the Sheriff's Department or the FBI. Now, the FBI yesterday released a description of what they're calling a suspect, described as a man approximately 5'10", 5'9", with an average build. In the next Nest surveillance video that we saw that was released earlier this week, he was wearing a black 25-liter Ozark Trail Hiker backpack. Now, why is that significant? It's a product line that's specific to Walmart stores. So we reached out to Walmart to see if they are working with investigators. These developments all coming hours after investigators put up that tent at Nancy Guthrie's home. We were live on air when this happened. They brought in a forensic height chart. That's specialized equipment that can cause surveillance images to estimate a person's height. And the FBI is doubling its reward to $100,000 for any information leading to the location of Nancy Guthrie and or the arrest and conviction of the person involved in her disappearance. Residents in this neighborhood are being asked to share their surveillance camera footage of suspicious cars or people that they may have noticed all the way back to early January, a month before she disappeared. Initially, a resident told us, okay, January 11th, they were looking at some time frame between 9 and midnight. Now we're being told that they're looking at anything suspicious between January and February. So you're covering a month there in that. Federal and local officials have been going door to door as well, Marky. We know talking to people in Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood, also going back to Annie Guthrie's, where she had dinner just hours before she disappeared. We also have learned that investigators are analyzing additional pieces of evidence. But again, whether that evidence has to be sent to Florida before then coming back to the FBI and then going to Quantico could really prolong this investigation.
Okay, so working on some new developments.
Organization's Jessica Cartalia is outside the federal courthouse in Manhattan. Jessica, what can you tell us about what's happening there and what we can expect from this hearing?
Good morning, Alicia. Yeah, so we do have word that Maduro is behind us here at the courthouse. He made his way over from the Brooklyn Detention Center. We're standing in the middle of a crowd of Venezuelans. Joining me now is Carlos. Carlos, why is it important for you to be here today and showing solidarity?
It's important for me because I love my country profoundly, and I'm quite excited and happy to see that Nicolás Maduro the man who is mainly to blame for everything we've suffered this last decade will face some sort of justice.
How do you feel about the fact that protesters from the other side showed up? And what is your thought about what they have to say today?
I am very indignant, saddened, and angry. I find it appalling that some people are so willing to defend a man behind so many human rights abuses. We Venezuelans have vastly reported everything that's been going on there, both in Spanish and English. The information is out there for them to see. And I'm particularly indignant about them saying that they're anti-war and pro-peace, whereas they're holding a banner with folks carrying machine guns between the faces of Nicolás Maduro and Hugo Chavez. They are people that want us to suffer, and that is wild.
Carlos, thank you so much for talking with us today. So what is happening here? Maduro wants his drug trafficking indictment thrown out over a dispute over legal fees. The hearing is to determine what will happen next in this case. His lawyer says the U.S. is violating Maduro's constitutional rights by blocking Venezuelan government funds from being used to pay his legal costs. Maduro ruled Venezuela since 2013. He was ousted as president in a January 3rd raid by the United States and brought here to New York. He and his wife are accused of ordering kidnappings, beatings, murders of anyone who opposed him or undermined them, and their drug trafficking operation. If convicted, the two of them could face life in prison. Maduro, as we know, has pleaded not guilty to drug trafficking and charges of drug trafficking charges. He's called himself essentially a prisoner of war since he was taken into custody by the U.S. Also of note today, the judge presiding over this case is Alan Hellerstein. He is a 92-year-old judge, which is significant in itself. All of the decades that he has been serving, some are questioning whether he will be able to carry this out, depending on how long it's going to take, Alicia. But it should be interesting when things get underway here around 11 o'clock this morning to determine what happens next in this case. Ultimately, if they are found guilty, they both could serve life behind bars.
Correspondent Jessica Cartalia is live in Tucson. I mean, Jessica, it's hard to even find the words for how awful this is. What more are we learning this morning?
Right, it's heartbreaking, Marnie, and so very few leads. Another heartbreaking message over the weekend from the Guthrie family, with Savannah on camera saying, "We will pay this money."
We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her.
News Nation's Alicia Nieves is on Wall Street. Alicia, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Boy, what a difference a day makes. We didn't really see any green this time yesterday. So what do you think? Is there speculation that this could hold?
It certainly seems like markets are prepared to open in a position where that's what they're betting on right now. To your point, I mean, yesterday was kind of the same what we've seen for the last 5 or so weeks, right? Markets pretty weak, mostly to the downside on the concern of the Strait of Hormuz. How much oil is not getting through that strait? It can't underscore 20 million barrels a day that's kind of being drained from the global oil supply.
To the moon, then Earth, and just hours away from that historic lunar flyby that will give astronauts a view no humans have ever seen before.
Remains on a free return trajectory and is on the outbound transit towards the moon with lunar flyby day 6, which is Monday coming up.
The crew is busy testing life support systems, communications, and piloting controls, all key steps before astronauts attempt future missions to land on the moon. Mission down.
News Nation's Jessica Cartalia is following the latest. She's been at Newark Liberty International Airport all day, and there is a huge crowd behind you, Jessica. Talk about bad timing.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends here because they, too, have been here all day long, Henna. Flights have been canceled. There are so many delays, people having to figure things out. It's a trifecta for these travelers.
Live in Tucson, tracking it all for us. All right, Jessica, what more do we know about this new search? What are they looking for?
So it's unclear what they're looking for. They have not released that information to the media just yet. We think that they're keeping it pretty close to the vest at this point, Nicole. We do know, though, there is something called the Sonora Coalition for Protection of the Desert, and they have cameras near Oracle Road, and that's a main thoroughfare between Nancy Guthrie's home and Annie Guthrie's home. We are going to reach out to them to see if they are working alongside the FBI. I just went to their social channels. They are not saying anything, as you would imagine that they wouldn't at this point, but they are probably working in tandem if they have those cameras right along those roads in the foothills. Now, just to give a little bit of perspective, Nancy Guthrie's home is in a beautiful neighborhood just around the foothills. There's some shopping centers nearby, a very quiet, ordinarily a pretty safe neighborhood. Let's talk about that TMZ email that they received early this morning. That was around 8 o'clock East Coast time. TMZ, this letter coming out a little bit differently than the other two, demanding or asking for 1 Bitcoin. That's about 66,000 American dollars, saying that you provide this money, I will provide information that could lead to a suspect. We're looking into this. We know that TMZ has sent that over to the FBI. But again, another letter that's going to a media outlet as opposed to directly to law enforcement or the Guthrie family. Now, the man that Pima County Sheriff's deputies had detained last night, who we thought this may be a major break in the case, is free now after a raid on his home in Rio Rico. That's about an hour from Tucson, just near the Mexico border. Here's what he had to say about that.
I hope they get the suspect, because I'm not it. They better do their job and find the suspect that did it so they can clear my name. And I'm done. Look at what I'm putting my family through.
You're on
not just them,
news now.
not just them. Even my parents in Tucson.
That man, identified as 36-year-old Carlos Alfredo Palazuelos, was taken into custody just hours after the FBI released that new video and those still photos of a person seen on camera outside of Nancy Guthrie's front door. In one of the videos released, you see that person wearing a ski mask, a backpack, a heavy jacket, and gloves, walk right to the door, turn around, grab a branch to hide their face, and then walk back toward the door. In the other video, you see him appearing to bust one of the cameras. Now, according to the FBI, it took them quite a bit of time to retrieve that video from the Nest camera because Nancy Guthrie didn't have that camera hooked up to a subscription. You're looking at her home in the upper corner of the show, and of your screen rather, and then now you're seeing that video in the big frame where he appears to punch out that camera. So law enforcement had to work with Google to look through all of these Nest cameras because there wasn't video that was living on a cloud, so to speak, because there was no subscription attached to that camera. Now, following the release of the videos, law enforcement officials went back to Annie Guthrie's home about 4 miles away. Again, we're talking about that Oracle Road where there are allegedly cameras along that roadway. Search and rescue crews were also seen talking with neighbors as investigators searched through the brush in the area. And now, again, the newest information in this case, the FBI is searching in the Catalina foothills near the Guthrie's home. That's both Nancy and Annie Guthrie. They're both in the foothills area. What they are looking for is not being released at this moment, Nicole. News Nation's Alicia Nieves has been digging into this case. She joins us live in our New York studio. Okay, first of all, the picture we've been talking about, I mean, man, they did not get his good side, if there is one. But Andrew really has yet to be charged with anything. Yeah. So where do things go from here?
But we know right now the former prince was released after being in custody for somewhat 11 hours. We understand he's back at his home at Sandringham Estate, and authorities have left open the possibility that he could be detained further for questioning, or we could see potentially formal charges if they find enough evidence. Right now, his detainment and even the search that happened at Sandringham, which we got to know is the King's estate, is all on this suspicion of misconduct in public office. The investigation follows the U.S. Department of Justice releasing those millions of documents in the Epstein case. And some of those documents, like this email right here, allegedly showing the former prince sharing confidential trade information with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the former prince in the past has been under scrutiny over allegations of sexual abuse of minors following that lawsuit filed by Virginia Giuffre saying that Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficked her to the prince when she was just 17 years old. And to be clear here, the scope of this investigation doesn't seem to to extend to that, but it is bringing in focus the prince's relationship with the convicted sex offender and his possible misconduct in public office.
There were FBI past files to Metropolitan Police in 2022. But you're absolutely right. This is a national security issue now. Clearly, intelligence was worried about Andrew's links and who he's associating with. The fact that he was basically a very vulnerable way into the British establishment.
The monarchy has now come out and is pledging its full cooperation with authorities, while questions continue to linger over whether the former prince will now be removed from the line of succession. This is something that could happen, and if it does, it'd be the first time in nearly 100 years. 1939, the last time someone was removed from the line of succession, and it wasn't under these kind of concerning, allegations.
Wow. Interesting. 1939, and then 400 years before one was actually booted altogether. Yeah. Alicia, thank you.
Of course.
All right.
This is KLFY News 10 at 10.
Thanks for joining us tonight. Dalford is off for the evening. Sexual assault victims in Louisiana will soon be able to know exactly where their cases stand. A bill passed by a Covington senator is helping to create a tracking system for rape and sexual assault kits. News 10's Britt LaFaso joins me now in the studio with how this will help victims.
Darla, the senator who spearheaded this bill tells me some of these kits will sit in hospitals or crime labs for years, ultimately stalling sexual assault cases. That's an issue this bill will hopefully fix. Because state police have the largest crime lab in the state, they are the ones working on implementing this tracking system. Senator Mizell hopes all crime labs across the state will be able to use this system by the end of next year.
So, Britt, I think it's pretty obvious this is definitely a step in the right direction, something that obviously victims have waited to hear for a long time.
Definitely. I mean, right now as we speak there.
Hello, Acadiana. We begin with the breaking news tonight in Breaux Bridge, where police are on the scene of a shooting. Leading off for us tonight is News 10's Britt LaFaso. She is live on the scene. Britt, what have you learned? What more can you tell us?
Hey, Dalford, as you can see behind me, Breaux Bridge police have started wrapping up their investigation here at the scene. But take a look at some of the video that we shot maybe just half an hour ago.
This is KLFY News 10 at 10.
Thanks for joining us. A major vehicle crash involving a pedestrian shut down a main interstate this evening in Lafayette.
Police were on the scene of the crash on I-49 northbound, which goes right under the I-10 overpass. A vehicle traveling north on I-49 hit someone. According to officials, the pedestrian was sent to a hospital where they are now in stable condition.
Here's a live look now at the area the crash happened. All lanes have since been reopened on I-49 northbound. Just late tonight, an Arnaville man charged in the deadly overdose death of a UL student has been found guilty of second-degree murder.
Our jury returned to their unanimous vote today, finding Damien Deshawn Bernard sold Jean-Terrace Broussard the fentanyl-laced drugs that killed her.
News 10's Britt LaFaso spoke with the prosecutor in the case.
This is Jean-Terrace Broussard. She was found alone without a pulse in downtown Lafayette 2 years ago. She died just days before her 21st birthday. And prosecutors say this man, Damien Deshawn Bernard, sold her fentanyl-laced drugs. Today, a jury found him guilty of murder.
Here tonight, reporting live in Breaux Bridge, Britt LaFaso, KLFY News 10.
Thank you, Britt. A busy night for breaking news in Acadiana. Tonight, police are also on the scene of a deadly crash involving a bicyclist. According to police, the crash happened around 7 tonight in the 3000 block of I-49 Northeast Frontage Road. When officers arrived, the male bicyclist was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators say the driver of the vehicle and the cyclist were heading in the same direction when the vehicle hit the bicycle. I-49 is temporarily closed to traffic from High Meadows Boulevard to East Butcher Switch Road. Police ask for everyone to avoid the area until further notice. In New Iberia, police are investigating the latest shooting in the city. It happened off Dale and Center Streets. According to authorities, the man showed up to someone's house with a gunshot wound and they called police. The man was taken to a hospital where he remains in stable condition, but the investigation into the shooting is underway. And in Oakdale, state police are investigating a 2-vehicle crash on Highway 10. They say the crash claimed the life of 75-year-old Eddie Brunson. Authorities tell us Brunson was traveling west on Highway 10 when a man traveling in the opposite direction crossed the center line and hit Brunson's vehicle head-on. Both were transported to a hospital where Brunson did not survive his injuries. Toxicology samples were taken from both drivers and the crash remains under investigation.
We are dancing, we are flying. And we murmured our howdy. I wanted to ring out the bells and fling up my arms and to sing out the news. I have found him, I have found him.
Academy is so excited to bring Hadestown Teen Edition to South Louisiana. Hadestown retells the Greek myths of Orpheus and Eurydice. Cannot wait for you to see it and see how the world could be in spite of the way that it is. Hadestown Teen Edition comes to Wonderland May 2025. We'll see you in the underworld.
Right, just be prepared. Isn't it nice to know a lot and a little bit? Not.
The class would often swerve. Bring it up. It's amazing to lose. They never lost their nerve. And it reached the right conclusions. Life is good. I have no fear, nor no one should. The woods are just trees. The trees are just wood. No need to be afraid.
Birds and lettuce, he said all right. But it wasn't quite, because I caught him in the autumn in my garden one night.